60,000 people coming to this show.
This is the place to be.
You think you've seen wild? Nah, you haven't seen wild until you've seen some insane custom cars that have won at the SEMA's Mother's Choice Awards.
Landed some Rich Downing from our engineering team. Guys, come on out. Here they are. Russ?
We're talking about a quad-turbo monster, lifted 6x6 Camaros on 44-inch tires, and an electric drift truck that lights up the floor like a flamethrower. These aren't your typical slam trucks or wide-body exotics. They are the pinnacle of, how is that even legal, builds that turned the entire SEMA floor into a crowd of dropped jaws. Today, we're diving into the 9 most insane custom cars that earned the top trophy from Mother's Choice at the SEMA. Number 1, it's the kind of build you'll be sending to your friends with the caption, "You've got to see this." Number 9, 1972 Chevrolet K50 Blazer, the Bulldog. Alright, kicking off our list at number 9 is a truck so bold, it could clear out a saloon just by idling out front. We're talking about the 1972 Chevrolet K50 Blazer, the Bulldog, built by Artec Fabrications in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and owned by Randall Robertson. This beast is exactly what happens when you take classic Chevy styling and fuse it with the muscle of a 550 horsepower 12-valve Cummins diesel. Now, don't let the Blazer name fool you. The only real Blazer piece left on this rig is the top part of the windshield frame. Everything else, custom. Artec started with a medium-duty cab and blended it with a pickup bed to craft this one-off monster, stretching the wheelbase to 120 inches to give it that commanding stance that made folks stop dead in their tracks at SEMA. They call it the Bulldog for a reason. This thing's got a stocky, aggressive posture that's impossible to ignore. The front clip came from a 50 series truck. The rear fender flares were bobbed and beefed up, and those front flares were flipped to the rear with reinforced steel structure behind them. So if you think you can kick them loose, you'll probably end up breaking your toe first. When it comes to muscle, the Bulldog has plenty to flex. Under the hood sits that Cummins powerhouse, built with Dynamite diesel stage 3 injectors, a BD diesel Super B turbo kit, a mild cam, and ported and polished heads, all feeding into a 47RH automatic transmission. It cranks out a jaw-dropping 1,300 pound-feet of torque, sending power through a new Process 2.05 transfer case and 4.11 gears that turn those massive 40-inch Toyo Open Country MT tires, wrapped around American Force 20x14.5G 23-0 wheels. Artec didn't just throw a massive engine in and call it done. The chassis is a custom-crafted medium-duty frame, built tough enough to handle everything from street cruising to hauling logs up a rocky mountain trail without flexing like a pool noodle. They installed a custom-fabricated coilover 4-link suspension front and rear with FOA 2.5-inch remote reservoir coilovers, plus a corporate 14-bolt rear axle with a locker and a Dana 60 up front. Inside, it's a perfect blend of old-school cool and modern comfort. They kept the original Highlander plaid styling, but slipped it over 2010 Sierra seats. And there's a Dakota digital gauge cluster to keep things classy yet functional. They even fit a modern double-din head unit while preserving the vintage dash look. It's got that brand new truck drive feel with classic 72 looks. The exterior sports GM, ochre and white, shot in Lucid Technologies North Star urethane paint, topped with AMP Research XL power running boards that tuck up clean when you don't need them. Artec topped it off with the original grille, custom CNC machined mesh, handmade cold-rolled steel bumpers, and a worn Xeon 12-winch to give it the get-it-done attitude. Stick around, because coming up next in our countdown is just as wild. But before we continue, if you live for builds that break the internet and sound like pure chaos at startup, touch that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on the wild content right here on the channel. 8. 1962 Chevrolet C10 Pickup Chevrolet E10 Concept. The 1962 Chevrolet C10 E10 Concept is GM flexing hard on what hot rodding looks like in an electric future. GM took a classic 62 C10 and dropped in a double-stack electric motor setup, pulling juice from 2 400-volt Bolt EV battery packs to churn out 450 horsepower, enough to launch this truck from 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds and run the quarter mile in 13. But that's not all. GM threw in a sound emulator with 5 selectable modes, letting you roll with LS7 Camaro Z28 track tuning, V8 growls, or even futuristic sci-fi sounds to match your mood, while the system adjusts the audio with each gear shift. It's like having the best of both worlds, EV power with classic hot rod soul. Underneath, the E10 features a conventional Supermatic 4L75E automatic transmission paired with a Chevy 12-bolt rear end, backed by custom air suspension that lowers it over billet wheels, 20-inch up front and 22-inch in the rear, giving it a stance that screams SEMA showstopper. The design is just as wild. It features carbon fiber front and rear roll pans, a recessed grille with an illuminated bow tie, LED headlights, and shaved drip rails, all finished in a bold orange hue that stands out under the lights. It is home to twin battery packs, which give the truck a low center of gravity while showcasing how GM envisions future crate systems. Inside, you get a mix of modern tech and vintage vibes. The original dash is updated with digital displays for the electric powertrain, black leather seats with orange stitching, and chrome window cranks that nod to the truck's heritage while embracing its new electric heartbeat. GM put this truck together in just 18 weeks, pulling teams from across the company to develop what they call the Electric Connect and Cruise E-Crate system, designed to be a direct replacement for LS engines, dropping right into your classic without hassle. Number 7. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Valkyria by Ring Brothers. The Ring Brothers out of Spring Green, Wisconsin, are legends for a reason, but with the Valkyria, they dropped a hammer that even Thor would envy. You might look at it and think, yeah, clean Camaro. But this green monster packs a staggering 890 horsepower from a 416 cubic inch Wegner Motorsports LS3, topped with a 2.9-liter Whipple blower, all funneling thunder through a beefed-up Bowler Tremec 6-speed. The thing is, it's not just about brute force. The car was scanned, digitally modeled, and reimagined with carbon fiber skins that mimic the Camaro's classic bones while pushing boundaries. Rear quarters are 5 inches wider, fronts are 3 inches wider, and they even nudged the wheelbase forward 1.5 inches to give it a hunkered down, ready-to-pounce stance. Moreover, they didn't add on some random wheels and call it a day. Custom HRE wheels, wrapped in Michelin Pilot tires, sit atop a Detroit Speed front and rear suspension setup, with bare brakes ready to rein in all that American chaos. The interior was masterfully crafted by Upholstery Unlimited, giving it a refined yet aggressive feel. Flowmaster Stainless Super 44 exhaust sings out Valkyria's war cry, while CNC machined and 3D printed parts merge the past with the future in a way that makes you do a double take. Even the Euro license plate integration was used as an excuse to flex new exhaust highlights. Ring Brothers have always been about balancing wild horsepower with clean styling. Still, the Valkyria is where they hit their stride, taking home the Battle of the Builders title at SEMA's 2019 Ignited Afterparty. You can tell this wasn't just a build, it was a 2-year quest to outdo themselves. Mike Ring even said, "We try to top ourselves every year, and this build was unlike anything we had attempted before." It shows. It's a car that keeps the spirit of '69 alive while packing modern tech under the skin, making it not just a show queen, but a street beast ready to chew up tarmac at will. Number 6. 1966 Datsun Fairlady 1600 Roadster by Japanese Classics. This 1966 Datsun Fairlady 1600 Roadster might be small in size, but it punches way above its weight in cool factor and craftsmanship. Chris Bishop from Richmond, Virginia, spent 12 years with this Fairlady, but it was under the expert hands of Japanese Classics and painter Andrew Clark that it turned into the SEMA showstopper we're talking about today. The body was stripped of side markers, door keyholes, and jack points for a sleek, uninterrupted silhouette. The windshield got chopped by 7 inches, giving it a lower, sportier profile that just demands sunglasses and a winding canyon road. Then, there's that custom-mixed Japanese Classics green paint. Deep, rich, and perfectly contrasted with polished chrome on the grille, headlight bezels, and handles. The crew even hand-built rear flares and a one-off front spoiler, keeping the lines classic while adding subtle aggression. Pop open the door, and you're met with a custom interior, crafted using Relicate leather in a dark maroon shade, giving off a vibe that's both vintage and upscale. The in-house designed seats and door cards blend luxury with retro flair, while a matching custom luggage piece straps down neatly behind the seats. Then there's the engine bay, where they really went nuts. Instead of settling for a rebuilt factory motor, they dropped in an Autech SR20DE, mated to an SR25 speed gearbox, adding a layer of Japanese performance that perfectly complements its lightweight body. They didn't just swap in the engine and call it a day either. Over 40 hours were invested in crafting a one-off valve cover that combined parts from an S15 and an S13, complete with a custom wire channel that hides ignition wires cleanly along the flank, ditching the usual clutter under the hood. Even the oil cap was custom machined to maintain a low-profile look. The Fairlady rolls on retro-style work-equip 40 wheels that give it the perfect stance without trying too hard, paired with Fortune Auto coilovers at all 4 corners to ensure it handles like a go-kart that just so happens to look like a jewelry piece. Number 5. 1965 M677 Jeep Forward Control Truck. This is Roy Wallace's 1965 M677 Jeep Forward Control Truck out of San Jacinto, California. Now, Roy's rig got the royal treatment over at Rock Solid Off-Road, turning it into a hardcore overland machine that's as practical as it is bonkers to look at. It's slathered in Calvary blue, clear-coated to a shine. Pop the hood, and you'll see a Chevrolet 5.7 TP. Fuel-injected heart, mated to a 700R, 4 transmission, and NP 208 transfer case. It breathes easy with a MagnaFlow stainless exhaust installed by Jet Autoworks, while Dana 60 axles with 4.88 gears get those beefy Falcon Wild Peak tires clawing through whatever SoCal's desert can throw at it. Roy didn't just build it to pose either. This beast has sway-away shocks keeping it level, even when the terrain's trying to toss it sideways. And the Rampage bumpers are modified to fit perfectly, keeping things tight while protecting that front end. What really makes this truck pop is the full custom rear bed. You've got built-in toolboxes, a fold-down tailgate, a custom rack ready to hold wood sides, and a high-tent rooftop tent for those weekends in the backcountry when hotels aren't even an option. Inside the cab, lizard skin insulation keeps it quiet and cool, and custom Rockland slide-out drawers give you the kind of practical storage that makes every square inch count. You've got Bartax seat covers on JK seats, a custom dash running Speed Hut legacy gauges, and even a vintage air system tucked in to keep things cool when the Mojave sun is pounding down. Number 4. 1948 GMC Half-Ton Pickup. Sliding in at number 4, we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona, where Dave Jones teamed up with Dave Kindig from Kindig Design to resurrect a 1948 GMC Half-Ton Pickup, turning it into a masterpiece that blends classic truck vibes with modern power and craftsmanship. This truck's journey wasn't a straight line. It started with Kindig years ago, changed hands a couple of times, and finally found its way back under the Kindig spotlight when Dave gave them the green light to finish it with no compromises. It's wearing a modern classic paint job, sageless and buttery smooth under the lights, thanks to Kindig's mastery with Akzo Nobel products. Underneath, you've got a GM LS3 breathing through a Holley intake, managed by a GM ECM controller, and paired with a GM 4L80E transmission. There's a 3D printed oil bath filter, just to flex modern tech in a vintage shell, and ultimate headers paired with a stainless system running through a Borla crate muffler for that crisp, deep rumble you want from a truck like this. A strange 9-inch rear with 4.11 gears, Willwood brakes with 6 piston fronts and 4 piston rears, and dual adjustable coilovers make this GMC handle like a modern ride while keeping it planted under throttle. The cab's been stretched 4 inches, suicide doors installed for a dramatic entrance, and that rear window turned into a big window so you can soak in the view of the road behind you. Kindig sculpted a full custom bed from a single sheet of birch plywood, inlaid with chrome, and crafted a one-off birch running board that's functional art. The grille up front. It's a GMC grille with custom Chevy bars, all chromed to perfection by Ogden Chrome. Inside, you're wrapped in Hyde's leather upholstery, stitched up by JS Custom Interiors, with flush-mounted chrome and wood inlays matching that show-stopping bed. Every inch of this truck says it was built with intention. From the buttoned, vertically tufted bench seat, with gray piping to the dash, filled with round gauges in that classic cluster, it's a throwback to a simpler time while offering the performance of a modern cruiser. Number 3. 1936 Ford Roadster, 3-penny Roadster. George Poteet's 1936 Ford Roadster, the 3-penny Roadster, is a chocolate milk-colored masterpiece that'll make you question if Ford missed their true calling back in the 30s. It's named 3-penny Roadster after the price of chocolate milk back when George was a kid. This beauty, built by Pinky's Rod Shop out in Windsor, Colorado, took home the America's Most Beautiful Roadster title at the Grand National Roadster Show. And when you lay eyes on it, you know exactly why. They started with a 1936 Ford cowl, and then said, what if Ford had an artist design the rest back in the day? The entire car was coach-built to bring that fantasy to life. The frame? Handmade. The panels? Coach-built perfection. They wrote over 400 CNC programs just to machine every custom part in-house. This thing's got a 351 Windsor under the hood, paired with a Tremec TKO 600 and a Winters quick change rear end. So it's not just a looker, it's ready to rip down any boulevard in America. What really sets it off are the custom one-off wheels by Curtis Speed Equipment, wrapped in Coker tires, and that PPG custom chocolate milk paint that stops folks in their tracks. It's a warm gray that makes you step in closer, and you start noticing all the subtle body mods, like how the front fenders were moved forward by 2 inches, stretched 3 inches for that stance, windshield chopped 2 inches, and a custom 4-piece hood with a 2-piece center hinge. Open the doors, and you're greeted with seats by Sid Shaver using Relicate leather, while every instrument and component inside was machined in-house using CAD design. The dash? One-off. The gauges? Custom faces and light diffusers made just for this car. Number 2. 1932 Ford Tutor 5th Avenue Special. Taking the number 2 spot on our countdown is a 1932 Ford Tutor, known as the 5th Avenue Special. Nathan Powell from Columbiana, Alabama, owns this gentleman's hot rod, and it's proof of how you blend 1940s Art Deco luxury with hot rod muscle. Built by Goolsby Customs in Hueytown, Alabama, the 5th Avenue Special made its big debut at the SEMA show, walking away with the Glassrit Best Paint Award, Good Guys Gold Award, and the Mother's Shine Award. The body is original Henry Ford steel, but don't think they just added paint on and called it a day. Every panel was cleaned, sharpened, and refined with meticulous attention. The biggest challenge wasn't building a monster under the hood. It was getting those body panels and gaps to sit just right. Underneath, you've got a chassis fabricated by Alan Johnson of Johnson's Hot Rod Shop, with RideTech coilovers out back for a perfect stance and ride. The power comes from a small Chevy, paired with a Bowler 4 L60E transmission, polished ram horn exhaust manifolds, and a 9-inch Ford rear end, with Gear FX 3.70 to 1 gears, tucked into a strange axle. It's got Wheelsmith billet artillery wheels, 15 inches up front and 17 inches in the back, filling those classic fenders perfectly. Open the doors, and you're met with 1960 Lincoln NOS fabric paired with Moore and Giles leather, aviation carpeting, and a period-correct top supported by exposed redwood framing that ties the interior to the exterior in a classy yet bold way. Advanced plating handled all the bright work, and the interior is finished with Goolsby Edition low-car hardware and gauge clusters, topped off with vintage air to keep it cool while you cruise. What's wild about the 5th Avenue Special is how it honors the 1932 Ford's place in hot rod culture, while refining it into a ride that looks like it should be parked under the bright lights of 5th Avenue in New York. Yet, you know it would smoke the tires if you felt like laying down a patch. The color? BASF Celadon Mist with Cumberland Green and Black, a combo that makes you lean in and appreciate the depth of the paint under different lights, which helped it take home that Best Paint Award without question. Number 1. 1972 Datsun 240Z by Sean Bassett's. At number 7, we've got a car that's proof you don't need a billionaire's shop to build something that drops jaws at SEMA. Picture a 1972 Datsun 240Z that started as a rusty Craigslist wreck out of Miami. A total basket case you'd think would end up in the crusher. Not for Sean Bassett, though. He saw that sorry shell and decided it was the perfect base to chase his dream of running Pikes Peak. Now, Sean didn't clean up the 240Z with a fancy paint job. He tore the thing down in his 750-square-foot pole barn in Apopka, Florida, and handcrafted every single panel in carbon fiber, widening the body a whopping 12 inches. He built negative molds himself, forming a shape that looks like it's slicing through the air, even when it's parked. Underneath that bespoke carbon skin is a full FIA spec tubular chassis. He wanted this thing to survive the brutal demands of hill climb racing. We're talking a 415 horsepower, 5.3-liter, all-aluminum L33 LSV8, ported and polished, stuffed with a BTR, Stage 3 cam, and topped with an Atomic Air Force intake manifold. It gulps air through a K&N carbon fiber filter, while a CSF triple bypass radiator keeps it cool when it's screaming up a mountain. All that power runs through a built Tremec T56 transmission paired with a sequential shifter, sending grunt through a carbon fiber drive shaft to a KAZ limited slip differential tucked into an S14 housing. This rig weighs just 2,600 pounds, so you know it absolutely rips. It's sitting on custom BC forged wheels with massive Toyo Proxys RR, slicks up front and out back, gripping the pavement like a mountain goat on Red Bull. The footwork is handled by BC Racing ZR coilovers, FDF Fab grip knuckles, and SPL parts control arms, all working together to keep this Z glued to the track. Moreover, when it's time to slow down, StopTech Trophy big brakes up front and Z32 rear brakes handle the stopping power without drama. Inside, it's pure business. A Sabelt Taurus seat, carbon fiber dash, autometer gauges, and a Holley Pro 13-inch digital dash remind you that this build is about speed, not comfort. But maybe the craziest part of this whole story? Sean built this car himself, over 4.5 years, on a budget, learning as he went. No high-end shop, no lottery win, just dedication, sweat, and skill. That's the kind of story that makes you want to head out to your own garage and start wrenching. That's it for today. 9 of the most mind-blowing, rule-breaking, award-winning customs that owned the SEMA floor and took home the Mother's Choice Awards. If you're all about next-level builds and stories that sound too insane to be true, smash that subscribe button now and join us for more jaw-dropping builds and behind-the-scenes chaos from the world's wildest car scene.